Okay, so today I thought we could talk about the dreaded referrals, and maybe how the referral works from both angles. So my starting point is a referral. So normally, something will come through on, we have a virtual system. So a member of staff will send us through on a virtual system. We use CPOMs, but I know there's lots of other systems out there. So a member of staff will put something in about a pupil and it will ping me an email. I could be teaching at that point. So sometimes I might have to have a little look while I'm teaching, or I'll wait until the end of the lesson. If it's a immediate referral, then the member of staff will come and find me, and that has happened. So in the middle of lessons, I will get a member of staff come and find me and say, I need you right now. Then I'll obviously look at the referrals. Chances are I'll know something about this child. Very few referrals will come out of the blue. They're normally something that's going on. We're slightly suspicious that something's not quite right with the child. And then normally my instinct is that I normally go and speak to the child myself. I deal with 11 to 18-year-olds. So obviously I normally go and speak to the child, because sometimes what they might have told or seen to another member of staff isn't always the right story, or the teacher might have suddenly stopped talking and I want to ask a few more questions. For example, if they mention about my dad hit me, what does a hit mean? Talk me through what a hit is, because that can be very different for different people. Then when I get that comment that I think actually this is much bigger than it really is, and maybe I need to look at investigating it a little bit further, then I need to make a decision on what referral I'm making and where the referral is going. So obviously consent is my nightmare to start with. If I'm doing a referral to MASH, I needed to get consent. And consent can take quite a long time. I'm sure you're nodding at me now. So I start getting consent from whoever I need to get consent from, which can take a week. If it's a mental health form, then again, I need to get consent. So if I'm not just going MASH, if I'm going CAMH, I need to get consent, which can mean that I need to have a conversation with the parents, or I need to have a conversation with the child, deciding on what I'm going with it. Then I spend probably 2 days filling out the form once I've got consent, although before that I will have phoned MASH or CAMH and said, just want to check that you haven't got records about this child already. And if they say yes we have, then I'll be like, okay, great, good, who's the professional, can I pass it all to them? Chances are there isn't a professional already involved, in which case then I have to do the referral. And the referral does take me quite a long time, because obviously I need to get the right language, I need to get facts, normally attendance, normally statistics, normally how they're doing education wise and things like that. And I think that's what takes me the longest, doing the forms. And then I will then send it to no man's land.
I like that.
and then I'll phone up and go, has someone got my form? And I really try not to send it at 4:30 on a Friday. Doesn't always work like that, because I know how frustrating that can be. But I really try to get all my facts and try and get a referral sent straight away. So that's how it works with me. Over to you now, Marie. What happens then?
Okay, so what happens on our end, in just being kind of frank with this, I suppose, is reminding you that, like you, we have a clock ticking, depending on when a referral comes in. Also different teams covering MASH. So we've got the MASH manager, and then every week a MASH duty manager coming on with their team. And every day as a social work manager, we've got cases coming into our team that we need to allocate. So again, we've got thresholds, like you've got thresholds, as in thresholds who ring us. We've got thresholds under the Section 17, child in need, and also hence you need a consent for that, what you've mentioned. And we've got the Section 47s, again, which would be the urgent, got to see the child within 24 hours, you need to have a strategy meeting with the police, blah, 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 blah. So likewise, depending on what you're telling us, first we think, is the family already known, et cetera, et cetera. Now with the beauty of MASH being multi-agency, we've got police, we've got health, we've got lots of other people in our department on the same floor, same room. So everyone does their bit. years ago, you know, pre-MASH, we used to have the dreaded fax. We used to fax the GP. We used to fax people, you know, dinosaur when you think about it. So now they're there, and we have to allocate. So we have to be thinking of, depending on what we've got on the family already, does this new bit of information now mean there's a risk? And then we think, is it an urgent risk, as in we don't have to go out today, or actually is it an urgent matter, meaning section 47? So like with you, our clocks are ticking. I've got X amount of people on duty that day. Some local authorities might have screeners, some haven't. And then, you know, the person on the desk potentially will be having those conversations, exploring. They come to the manager who's making the decision about allocation. And then for my end, we have to allocate to people on the floor. We've always got backup social workers. So we have our social workers, and then we have backup workers in case there's lots going on that we run out of people. Then we got to think about prioritizing the 0 to 5, because obviously younger children and unborn babies being higher risk. You know, children with additional needs. So that's our kind of challenge, I suppose, which isn't helpful for you in that way. So when you're ringing up about something, to you it's very urgent, but to us it's not life and limb. But so there's a way around it.
How many phone calls do you think you get of saying a referral in an hour or so? How many, like we're making one?
It could be 15, 20. It varies. Sometimes they're just people, because don't forget, we've got A&E, we've got all people ringing into frontline. We've got, you know, health, we've got housing, we've got the public, we've got the police, you know, lots of kind of, even in the police, they go through their Merlin system, obviously, with the MASH navigator, but we've also got other kind of people. We have random local authorities from other parts of the country ringing us. We have people that want to share their information, you know, self-referrals. We've got people coming into reception to be seen. So as you can imagine, we're spinning lots of plates, and ultimately it's life and limb. So we have to manage it where by the end of the day, everything that's come to us on this time in duty has been resolved or activated. Understand?
No. So, and I think we forget that our case in front of us is really important, and we've got that one case in front of us, and we kind of want a resolution because we're going to go home and we're worried about this child going home. Obviously, if we were really worried about the child going home, then we would do something. But if it was you know, say for example, it was child said that dad hit me or mum hit me. If the other partner, you know, the other parent knew about it and there was a safety thing in place, we would be sitting there thinking, okay, well, we're not completely worried about this child, as in it doesn't happen all the time. It's something that maybe it was a one-off, and there's a safety plan in place. But in our heads, we still would go home worried about them at night time. We're thinking they need help now. They need help now. And it is very different talking. Your threshold is very different. I hate that word, but your threshold is very different. And you're seeing so many different cases, whereas ours, that child in front of us crying is the most important thing. And so it is interesting to hear that you've got that many cases coming through.
Yes, and I suppose it's also, you've got to be thinking of, there should be nothing that you're going home with worried, because if you are, that's telling you haven't referred it. So I call it decision making. So in summarising, I suppose, the good thing is, once you've informed social care, it's our responsibility, hence it's no longer yours. And therefore, depending on what decision we make, always think of a serious case of you. So people who know me know, I always say, think the unthinkable and it could happen here approach. So with those two together, every case you're referring, if something was to go wrong this evening, the fact you've told us and we've made a decision about it, it's now our responsibility. However, what is important, that you have to share everything with us. So you can't kind of play that game of, I'm not sure about this, or I might get a complaint because I'm weary of sharing this. Under information, we have to ensure that in the best interest of the child, you feel confident you shared accurate information, factual, rather than worrying about a complaint. Do you understand? Because as you know, once you tell me something, you can't withdraw it. So I'll give you a quick example. I remember many years ago online of a school ringing up, an independent school it was actually, and it was actually concerned the treatment of a child. And the DSL was so desperate, in a way of talking lots about this and this and this and this. And she mentioned something, and she said, and on a few occasions, Mum's been so desperate in trying to put rules down with his child, she gave him a cold bath.
Right.
Yeah. And the DSL said it so flippantly, it was almost like another plus, another add-on on top of other things.
Right.
And so that in itself was, wow, we are concerned. But until then, there were just little kind of ongoing little things. But that thing, we said, you need to refer it in now, and we're going to actually look into this further. Have you, blah, blah, blah. And she said, no, it's okay. I can speak to Mum about it. We said, no, now you've shared the information. So the point I'm making is sometimes, and that's why it's really important when you do your inset trainings to talk about personal values and attitudes, because we all have a different approach based on our own moral compasses as human beings. And that DSL obviously read that as in, sometimes you just got to put, it's a firm discipline rather than child cruelty. You understand what I mean? So it's just an interesting one that, like I mentioned at the start, the what ifs. A lot of authorities still have the kind of blind referrals, they call them. You can ring up and talk about a scenario without naming the child. There's some that say you have to name the child, and personally, on the front line, by you naming John Smith, then I can look at John Smith's notes and know his history, and then depending on what you're telling me, add value to the fact that I need to open it again. Because when you do the blind ones, I suppose I'm not aware of the history of that family, so it's like a random statement compared to layering chronology, building up a story. So I hope that's useful, but I think it's just making you understand that when you do make referrals, like you've got your challenges of getting it in, our challenge is also on that day, for example, closing cases, looking in cases, referring cases up. So we signpost to, do we have to do a single assessment today? Is it a section 17 one where we have got, like what you said, we're going to contact the family, it's non-urgent, but they're aware that we are got the case. Is it the 47? And we'll do another session on this one, but with section 47s, we've got to be mindful of, before we leave, we've got to think about, arranging medicals, we've got to think about foster placement on hold, we've got to think about the written agreement that we might have if the child's staying with a family friend or relative. So behind the scenes, it's just important that if you've made a referral, a good practice would be within an hour or 2 hours, you ring us back to then say, I've rang this, what's the process so far? At least you've got an update.
I'm going to write that down. Within an hour.
I'd say within the first 2 hours, definitely. Because, and I've had ones actually in my role that I do independently now where we've done that and actually there's no record because for some reason it wasn't recorded, i.e. every time you ring MASH or the front line, the name of the person you spoke to and the time you called. So when you're trying to trace that call, you can say I rang at 12 minutes past 9 and I spoke to a Samantha Fox. And therefore I now got Samantha Fox. That randomly came into my head. I don't know where that came from. Samantha, maybe the fox, the parrot and the cat. It's all in my head now, these things that we're talking about. Anyway. And then we can trail the time of when Samantha Fox was on duty to what was said. So I can go to Samantha to say, this came in, why isn't it on the record? So that's why it's also important as well, to ensure that there's a trail your end that I can also go back my end and join those dots.
I think you've reassured DSLs there because you've given them something else to do, a follow-up, but also you've kind of pointed out to them that they have passed on the responsibility, and as long as they have put everything in there that they are supposed to put in there, and they have always put the child first, then they're doing their job, and that's the most important thing. Put the child first, and make sure you've put down everything you possibly can that's important. That's really helpful.
Well said. I love the way you just summarised that. Hence you're the teacher. Lovely.
Excellent. It's a good session.
No problem. I enjoy.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
No problem. Bye.